Welcome to the Lion Nation podcast. Now to your host, Chuck Grace.
Got to turn my mic up for it to actually work. There we go. We're a little short-staffed tonight. We miss our producer, Rich Hensley, so I'm working double duty. We want to welcome Mark here, and, of course, Coach Price, Mickey holding on the camera for us, and we're going to have Coach Hop and Coach Henderson. Let me get you a little bit louder there, Coach. I think you're on mic too.
Is that working?
That's better. Perfect. There we go. And then we have Coach Henderson, one of our trainers.
Yes.
He's going to come speak to us, and then maybe a player or two.
Yeah, we have Noah Holyfield with us tonight, and then hopefully Bryce Allen will be here shortly.
Great. So we had a kind of a strange week last week of Teacher in Service Week, and so they kind of threw the schedule off. We didn't get to have a podcast last Monday. Had a game this week. Took on McNeil. They came to Bible, and we got to see a lot of youth on the field.
Sure.
And that's, some of that's due to you were forced to play some of those kids for various reasons. Talk a little bit about getting those kids ready for the program in the future by utilizing present-day game situations.
Well, I think we've been pretty blessed with our JV group. They've had an opportunity to play a lot of games this year and get a lot of experience. So when you have to move guys up to different positions with the varsity group, it's a little bit easier for them. So they're not standing on the sideline on a Friday night missing reps. They're actually getting to play a little bit on Thursdays. And so we had quite a few guys who have played on Thursday nights throughout the season that have had some success at that level, have an opportunity to step into some starting varsity roles, and I think they did a great job. They've some of them have been there for a couple of weeks, and then we've had a few that have been with us on the varsity level all year, and they just played a bigger role than they have in the past.
Well, and that experience is invaluable. There might not be a ton of success initially when you first step out onto a varsity gridiron.
Sure.
But just the experience of taking those guys on the speed of the game at the varsity level, things like that, that's invaluable experience for those younger players. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, it's going to be a lot for us to grow on during the off season. I think some of them have realized that some of the, varsity players that we go against are pretty strong, and they're going to have to have a great offseason, get stronger during the offseason. They've seen, like you said, the speed of the game is a little bit different. So, some of our off-season sports are going to be important, track and field especially, so that we can get faster. So that experience kind of gives them an idea of what they have to look forward to here in the next several months. But you also get an opportunity to just kind of, feel what a varsity game night is like, and that's pretty important. It's a lot different than what you might see on Thursday. A lot more people around and those things.
Well, and there's a lot more than just going and getting on the yellow dog and driving to a field and playing a football game, warming up and playing a game. I mean, there's a lot of Friday night lights, the pomp and circumstance that goes along with that.
We
recently had middle school night.
Yeah, which was huge, having those guys from RBMS and LMS come in and support the program, and so our sidelines were a little bit different. Pregame was a little different. So those are just things you have an opportunity to see that you're not going to get on Thursday night.
Well, and the week before, we didn't get to have a podcast afterwards, but the week before, the elementary schools, or the home game before.
Yeah.
The elementary schools were there, and they got to run through the tunnel 2 or 3 times. It was homecoming, and
sure.
There ended up being a couple of minutes, and they got to experience what it's like to be a varsity line and get right up on that tunnel and come running through all of the bluebells and the cheerleaders.
Yeah,
and things.
I think it was a great experience for all of our middle school guys and the elementary kids. They had a lot of fun. We've had several of our student athletes going to those elementary schools, and so for those kids to see our guys in a different environment was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's neat to see just some of those guys, especially the final time the elementary kids run through the tunnel, the varsity players are right there behind them.
Yeah.
So you can see them looking up and going, wow, you know, there's
Absolutely.
some big fellas.
Well, now that you've had an opportunity to move,
I think you're this
am I
way.
on? There we go.
There we go.
Now that you've had an opportunity to move here and become acclimated, Central Texas, how do you like it?
It's hotter.
It's hotter.
It's a little bit warmer, but no, I love it, and my family really loves it. You know, my son's in school at Winkley Elementary, and he just loves the staff over there. His teacher is awesome, and so he's adapting well. My daughter's in daycare over right next to him at Primrose, and you know, she's adjusting well, and that's something that's really important to me for my family to be adjusted and enjoy where they're living. So they're having a great time, which makes it a lot easier on me, and I'm having a good time. So
Well, good. Now, let's talk about your role as athletic director. A lot of people know you as a head coach, but you also have that other role.
Sure.
And that was probably a whirlwind as well, getting involved with all that, getting involved with the clubs, getting involved with the booster clubs, getting involved with everything else. So tell us a little bit about that. Has it kind of slowed down a little bit for you?
Yeah, it has. I think everyone has been very respectful of, you know, being in football season and you know, trying to help me get through that. But I have an opportunity to work with all sports and all the coaches across the campus, and I get great ideas from them about how they deal with their kids in their program, and they're really great people that work at Leander High School. And then, you know, you have the kids that are in all of these different programs. The cheerleaders have been amazing. The Bluebells have been amazing. Band's been great. I mean, all of the different organizations and the different groups that we have at Leander High School have made the process of adjusting and moving here a lot easier.
Well, there's a lot of pride in Leander High School.
Absolutely.
And you know, a lot of that is well deserved. You know, they've had success, you know, on the football field. They've had success more recently, well, it's on a football field too, but
Yeah, sure.
it's the band. And, you know, they've got, they're in probably the most competitive 6A district top to bottom for every sport.
Absolutely.
In the area. And so talk about that, because, you know, you came from a pretty tough district in 6A as a coordinator there at Keller High School. You're playing some of the state's top teams.
Sure, I think it's very comparable. I mean, you know, when I was there, you're playing Southlake and Denton Geyer, and you get here and you're dealing with Vandergrift and Round Rock and Stony Point. So, I mean, it's very comparable in terms of the level of talent that is in this area. And, you know, with that being said, everybody's working hard to try to make sure that we're competitive, regardless of what district we're in, and you see it across all sports. You know, everybody's involved in trying to, you know, get their teams to the next level. So, you know, we're very creative in how we work with our kids to try to, you know, we've done a lot of two-way stuff this year to try to get our guys in the right position and best position. And so you find a way to make it work as best you can, and the kids are fighting hard and the coaches are fighting hard.
Well, and as we talk about the tough district that we're in football season nears a close for the Lions, we look at a potential realignment. You know, the Lions could stay 6A. They could drop to 5A. We could stay in the same district. Sure. They could shake that district up. You know, as a parent who travels, I like the current district.
Sure.
In terms of going to games, it's a lot easier than our prior district, because we had Hayes and Lehman in
Right.
that district as well. And so you had a good hour and a half drive, depending on, you know, what time
Right.
and what game it was. And so talk about the uncertainty with that, because, you know, ultimately you could be facing anywhere from 6 to 8 entirely new programs next season, or we could be looking at the same other 8 teams that we play.
Yeah, the realignment process for the UIL, it's hard to even speculate or project where you're going to fall. October 25th, so this Friday, they're going to do our snapshot number, which is basically tells us our overall enrollment for Leander High School, and then based on that number, they will set the districts to whatever they're going
Right.
to.
Well, and they want to have so many 6A schools,
Sure.
and so they look at all of the total numbers for every school, and they say, okay, everything above this number
Right.
to equal the number of 6A schools they want.
And I think last alignment number was 2190. You know, we're sitting close to that number again, so you never know what the UIL is going to do, and in turn, it's hard to, like I said, it's hard to kind of speculate where we're going to fall. And so, I'm in the process now of setting our non-district schedule for the next couple of years, and so, you know, you're doing that based on a little bit of
and it's a
guesswork.
guess, too.
Yeah, you're guessing, and all of a sudden in January, one of those teams may be in your district, and you're scrambling to find another school to play in week 1 or 2 or 3 or something like that.
Well, the last alignment I actually attended kind of as to cover it, and the chaos
Yes.
at that thing it's insane.
Sure.
And you know, I'll just use I watched Cedar Park, who went from a district of 8 teams where they had 2 or no, it was a 9-team district, so they had 2 non-district games, dropped to a 6-team district,
Yeah.
and the other non-district games they had previously scheduled got moved to 9-team districts, and so they had, you know, they were looking at scheduling all 4 or 5 games, and they were scheduling San Angelo and teams
Sure.
well out of the area because there was nobody to schedule here.
We played Midland High School about 4 years in a row because of non-district issues like that. So, you know, you do your best to try to get some games outside of that potential, you know, bubble that you might be in for district, but you also don't want to be too far out. So,
Well, there's something to be said about traveling as a team, especially early in the season.
Sure.
For, you know, building that team camaraderie. You know, generally speaking, if you go more than a half hour, you don't have to ride the yellow dog. They
That's right.
usually get you a nicer bus.
yeah,
So,
that's absolutely right.
which is always a cool experience because you're riding it with your teammates and things like that. So. Well, this week we have Westwood. Westwood, as typical of Westwood, they have a very explosive offense, and their defense tends to give up a lot of points as well, although they're not a terrible defense.
Sure.
In watching film of Westwood, what can we expect from their offense?
Offensively, they're pretty pass heavy. They like to throw it around. They have a talented quarterback who's a pretty good dual threat. He's
I
a young
actually
guy.
know him.
Yeah. I think he's from this area.
He is. He played on a lot of youth baseball and football
Okay.
teams with a lot of kids in the area.
He's for sure a talented.
So they're
kid.
familiar with him at least.
Absolutely, and you know, they have quality receivers and a decent little running back. Their offensive line is pretty big, not as big as some of the things that we've seen this year, but pretty big. Like you said, they're explosive on offense. They've played a couple of, you know, shootout type games where they're throwing it quite a bit and trying
I
to see
think
who
they
can score
won
the
a
most.
game on going for 2 at the end
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah, they've had a couple of those. So
Well, you know, you kind of have to gamble like that sometimes to try to grab a win. And you know, the key, obviously, in a district like this is try to get yourself in a position to have that opportunity late in the game.
absolutely.
And so do we see any new wrinkles in the offense? You know, that you don't have to
Sure.
say what they are, but
No, we're definitely working every week just to try to take advantage of things that teams, you know, have struggled with in the past or just a personnel issue. So we're going to try to get some one-on-one matchups with some of our faster guys on some of their linebackers and things like that. And we're constantly searching to try to find the best that we can put out there to give them an issue. And you know, other teams practice as well, but you know, you can't practice all of it. We've been pretty multiple this year, so I think, you know, later on in the season when you're going back and looking at us all over film, you know, there's a lot for you to try to prepare for.
there's a
just
lot of
over-
individuals that
Yes.
you have to prepare for because,
So.
you know, whether it's out of necessity or just, you know, trying different guys out, you've played a lot of different kids.
Sure.
So,
They have a lot to look at over this next week as well.
well, and we won't give them any tips about who might or might not be playing
Sure.
in terms of, you know, if they've looked over the last couple of weeks of film. But I think we have, we're going to bring up Coach Hopp from Reading Brushy Middle School first, and then I think we're going to have Coach Henderson next after that. But real quick, because I forgot to shout them out, thank you for hosting us tonight, Bahama Bucks.
Yeah.
You might have noticed me enjoying this nice little thing. And Coach mentioned how hot it is here in Central Texas. Well, that's because we have 2 summers. We don't get fall. We get regular summer and second summer. So, and that's kind of what's going on here. Other sponsors of Lion Football include James Henderson, Good Flow Plumbing, 9 Round Fitness, Buttercup Dental, HEB Plus in Leander, Tillman Physical Therapy, Bill Miller's Barbecue, Wingstop, and Pendleton Orthodontics. We really appreciate all of this sponsorship, and we hope to continue a partnership with those organizations going forward. Coach Hop.
How you doing?
I never thought I would be sitting at a podcast interviewing somebody I actually did games for when they were playing. Now, at that time, it was my very first year to do things, and so I was just doing color commentary. So it was pretty brand new to me, but it's pretty unique. It wasn't that long ago that you were in attendance at Leander High School. Talk a little bit about how long ago that was.
Been 4 years now.
4 years.
4 years.
So you graduated in 2015?
Yes, sir.
So the football season that I'm referring to is 2014, where you played quarterback, you played some running back, you played a little bit of rover defensively, a little
I got
quarterback.
in at tight end.
Yeah, some tight end. You played with a cast on your hand at quarterback and running back, and it's pretty much tells the defense what you're going to do when your quarterback's throwing hand has a giant club on it. So,
Yeah.
talk about your experience with that, and because it was a similar season. It was rough. You guys were in a lot of games, but dropped a lot of them. Talk about how that's helped you or motivated you in your life. Talk about that a little bit.
It was a big challenge. It was the third play of the first game. I snapped my wrist. And after that, we were really, like you said, you get limited in what you can do,
Yep.
And so it really taught me a lot with going to college and the injuries that I had there. Always just trying to fight through something. And, I believe that it's really just helped me get to where I am today with fighting through adversity and the challenges.
And so you played all of those positions here at Leander, and then you went and played college football at a school locally, correct?
Yes.
Remotely, locally, and that's Texas Lutheran University.
Yes, sir.
I do sideline reporting for Southwestern University, so I get to see Texas Lutheran every year. You actually were on the team last season?
Yes. I
So,
finished, and that was my last year, so.
Yeah, I actually recall, I was there at the game, so when y'all played Southwestern. Okay, well, what made you want to coach? Was it your experience on varsity here at Leander, or was it just your love of sport? Talk about that a little bit.
Most definitely. I think starting off with the coaches that I had in middle school, they really kind of laid the foundation for me. And then coming
That's
up
Coach
here.
West? And those-
Actually, I went to Leander Middle School.
Oh, you went to LMS, okay.
And so Coach Steeder, Coach Chapman, and all of them. And, once I got up here to the high school and had Coach Gideon had trained me forever, and Coach Harper throughout the times, and then, Coach Grissom and Coach Williams that are
Right.
still up here. It's just been a blessing to be able to come back and, see it full circle.
Yeah, it's really awesome. The funny thing is, the first time I saw you, I was like, I know that guy from somewhere,
From
but
somewhere.
I couldn't place you. And then somebody told me that you had become a coach at Running Brushy.
Well, let's go through that process. How'd you become coach at Running Brushy? How'd you get that opportunity?
I knew I wanted to get back into the area, and I figured the best opportunity I could was using the connections that I had. And so, I came back, and Coach West, I actually went in there the first time and had an interview for coaching and teaching history. And called me back probably a week, 2 weeks later and said, well, we don't have that one, but you can teach PE. I was like, oh, that's even better.
That's easier.
Even better.
You don't have to grade papers for that.
Exactly. No lesson plans.
So how are you enjoying it?
I love it.
Not only a coach, but as a teacher. How do you enjoy that aspect?
It's a blast. We joke around that we don't actually go to work. We sit up there and we play games with the kids all day. We get to hang out. And then, before and after school, that's when we go practice. That's when we go to work. And that's what I love doing.
Right.
So it's been a blast. I wouldn't change it for the world. Don't really see myself leaving the area that much. I mean, it's...
Just work your way up.
Yep, work the way up.
Well, and there's always opportunities, especially in the profession of coaching, because that's part of coaching is you're looking for that next opportunity. Ultimately, most coaches want to be a head coach or a coordinator at
Right.
some point. And so you have to work your way up. Other head coaches have to move on to become athletic directors, administrators, or things like that. Do you have any interest in going even beyond head coaching into administration, like some of the coaches at Leander have done over the years?
Initially, I would say no, just because I enjoy that aspect so much. But this is also my second month of teaching.
Sure. Yeah,
And
you
in the
got plenty of
profession,
time
so,
to
yeah.
grow, right?
So, it'd be, I wouldn't rule it out, but it would just be something that I would put on the back burners for a while.
And is high school at least where your goal is for now? Or you're comfortable in the middle school for a while, or?
I'm more comfortable in the middle school than I thought I would be, but eventually I do think I would want
That's
to get
where
up
you
to the
wanna
high
be.
school, yes.
Okay. And you want to coordinate or head coach or anything like that?
I think so. I think coordinate for sure.
Do you call plays down at?
Yes.
It's- That's a lot of fun if
It
you're
is.
if you're on. If you're not on, it's no fun at all.
Yep. Changes
So
from
would
night
you
to
like to
night.
do that in at higher levels? Because that seems like it just gets more and more intense, the pressure.
I think so. I think it's something that comes with the game, and if I was to want to, continue to move up, obviously it's something along the way that I have to do eventually.
So what's the biggest challenge with the kids when you're coaching or talking to them? What's the biggest challenge that you probably didn't anticipate, but now that you see that there is an issue?
Putting it, playing in college, it was the terminology and the words that you could use and having it be able to make sense to someone who's playing at that level
Right.
with the football IQ of that.
So
to
some
now-
have no football IQ,
No clue.
none. Right.
And putting it into words where an 11-year-old who has no idea what a first down marker is, trying to get it into that where they can sit here and say, I understand what he means, I understand what he wants from me. So that's been definitely the biggest challenge of just how to say the things that you want them to do.
Well, in the terminology, it varies from team to team.
Correct.
And that's generally because it varies from coach to coach. A lot of it's based on, when they were taught. Of course, when I learned football, it was pretty easy because you had the 0 hole, the 2 hole, the 4, 6,
Yep.
8, and the 1, 3, 5. And then their backs were numbered. And
Yep.
so, you might have one or two little, the quarterback's going to, turn out opposite play side or something. But, it's a lot different now. I mean,
is.
it's like Omaha 40 and then, Jacksonville this and
And the
Miami
40 doesn't mean
that.
a 4 back through the 0 hole either.
Right.
Yeah.
So how do you have kids that have a hard time moving from, an old, because a lot of the kids that I coached them that way. I just said, we're going to run a 33. You're the 3 back. There's the 3 hole.
Right. They, for the most part, surprisingly, a lot of them haven't played yet. So, there's maybe the handful of kids that have played. And so they might have a little bit of a challenge switching over the terminology.
Right.
But for the most part, you're the first coach that they've really seen. So you really get to leave your impression on them, and how we call stuff is important, which is why we try to model what the high school does.
Right.
That way that doesn't change.
Well, that's always been it hasn't always been, but it had been a bit of a struggle to get it all aligned, and with the schools being added all the time and kids moving based on zoning and things like that, it's been hard to get a consistent. Coach mentioned Midland High School, but another school out there, Odessa Permian. In those schools out there, they have their youth league is running all of the same terminology, all the offense, all the defense, so that by the time they get to middle school and high school, it's a lot easier.
It's familiar to them. Exactly.
So, and that's been tough in this area, and I think it can be a little reflective of how things have gone of late. So now, you're kind of getting in here on a ground floor of rebuilding Leander, a program that you obviously have a little bit of pride in. How do you promote that at the middle school level with your players? Do you talk to them about playing in high school? Do you, do you have kids that are like, oh, I'm thinking band or I'm thinking football? I mean, do you spend any time talking to those kids, or you just let them make those decisions?
In the end, we know it's going to be their decision and what they're comfortable with
Sure.
and where they feel their abilities are. But every chance that we get, we try to do something where we're promoting it, whether it's just talking to them about the high school game, talking to them about going on Friday nights. And then we also like to, try and challenge them, saying, how many of you are willing to commit to it that you'll be playing your senior year of high school? And seeing if we can get that number to just continually rise each year where they can have the numbers.
And that's one thing we've noticed is you lose numbers as kids move through
Correct.
high school in each class. And, there's a variety of reasons, and some are well beyond the control of any coach or teacher or even the child themselves. So it presents a challenge. I know that school over there is walking around with some football players who don't suit up
Most
at
definitely.
this moment. And how can we kind of move some of those kids back towards the football program? Because you mentioned a lot of kids coming into the middle school haven't played, and I think a lot of that has to do with the concussion issues that have come to light in the NFL, and I think some parents are cautious with their children at a younger age, and it's caused a lot of children to not play until middle school,
Most
sometimes
definitely.
even beyond that.
I think that a lot of the kids who don't play, and that's the big reason, is they're worried about injuries. They're worried about breaking or fracturing something, as well as brain injuries that come with it.
It hurts.
And yeah,
Yeah,
it pays. It catches you up after a while, and so that's the thing that we're trying to balance, is not stepping on those toes and disrespecting people's opinions and beliefs on where they feel that they lie,
Right.
but also trying to promote the fact of come out and try it. If you love it, great. If you hate it, then that's fine, but at least give it a shot.
Well, there's a lot of value that can be taught in the sport of football. And granted, you can teach a lot of similar things in other team sports, but there's a uniqueness to football that has to do with intestinal fortitude, fighting through bad situations, playing for pride. Talk a little bit about that.
The thing that one of my coaches in college always said is football is the game of life. You'll go through the highs, you'll go through the lows, and it comes with every quarter it's something different. Every week it's something different. The challenges that you face in life are the same challenges of facing the number one team in the state. Some things are bigger, some things are littler, and it's just a matter of teaching you how it is that you need to handle that, how you need to rise to every occasion. So that's been something that I carry on my shoulder every time.
Well, I think you see a lot of coaches will divide their season up into 4 quarters, like it's a football game. And you can do that with life. And I think some people do, I'm just in the halftime of my life
Exactly.
or whatever. So trying to figure out what I'm going to do with the second half.
Exactly.
So making those adjustments. And, I think there is a lot of value from the experience. You have a very big coaching staff on a football team relative to other sports. Baseball, you have 2, maybe 3 coaches. Basketball, you have 2. In football, you're looking at 8 coaches, sometimes up to 10, depending on their role. They might not be directly coaching, but they may have some other role, like
Right.
filming or whatever. And so there's a lot more opportunity for mentorship from adult coaches to those kids. And so I commend anybody that goes into coaching. Especially at this level, it is an underpaid profession, especially if you break it down into hours
The hours, yep.
spent on the job. So, but again, like I said, I commend all those who are willing to step out there and be an example and mentor young guys. And I appreciate you.
Of course, I
for that,
appreciate it.
Coach. Yeah. And so we'll have Coach Henderson now. Is he here? Oh, she's here. Camera time. So you just came straight over from work, huh?
Yes, I did. Sorry, I look a mess.
That's okay. So, go on ahead and give us a quick hello so we can.
A quick hello.
Yeah,
Well, hello there.
That sounds pretty good. Okay, so this is your first year at Leander, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and Leander had a couple of trainers that had been there for a long time, right?
Yes, they did.
You probably hear
They're-
about that all the time, right?
Well, they're actually kind of like my second parents. Dawn
Okay,
and Wayne
there you go.
are.
Well, and Dawn is so she's there for you if you need her.
Yes. I'm actually. I was a student of Dawn and Wayne's.
Oh, okay. So you attended Leander.
Yes, I did.
So that's the theme tonight because we had Coach Hop as well. So talk about
Yes.
your experience at Leander. When did you graduate?
I graduated in 2008. So
Okay, so
it's
you're
been like
older.
11.
Even though you look younger than,
Oh.
than Brandon, you are older.
Yes, I am in fact older than Brandon.
So did you play any sports when you were here?
Not really. I ran track.
You ran track? Who was the track coach back then?
Coach Heermans was the track
Still?
coach. Yes, still.
Still yelling with that whistle and clipboard in her hand? back
Yes, and I think it was worse back then because she was.
She's
about to-
mellowed?
she was pregnant back then. So.
Oh, I got you. So she
yelled at us
couldn't
a lot.
control all the emotions and such. What events did you run?
I ran the 4x1 and I ran on the 4x2. I long jumped and I triple jumped.
So you
and
were
I
a
also
sprinter.
pole vault. Yes.
Did you bring home a lot of ribbons and stuff?
No,
Here or there?
not really. Here and there. I think the coolest opportunity that I had was to run at Texas Relays
Oh, that is awesome.
on the 4x1. It was lots of fun.
Yeah, that thing is just chaos down
It
there.
is.
So
it is chaos.
talk about that experience as a high schooler going down there and seeing all those grown, granted they're attending Alabama or whatever, but they're 23, 24, ready to run in the Olympics. And
Yeah.
you're out there as a high schooler.
Well, it was an interesting experience, especially since I came in my first year running track as a sophomore. I had never done any other sport except for gymnastics. So I didn't know what I was doing. And,
Well, you knew how to sprint because you got
I
at
knew
least
I
a-
just had to run straight,
Right.
turn left. That was it. And I guess the coolest thing was I got to see Jeremy Warner right in front of me
Nice.
run the Open 400, and watching him run was literally like poetry. Just
It's
how
amazing how
smooth
fast
he was.
those
I
guys
know.
are.
I
You don't
know.
realize it when you can watch it on TV. They look really fast,
Mm-hmm.
but until it's the same thing when you're down on a varsity football field.
Right.
You could sit in the stands of varsity games, even on the front row, all
Mm-hmm.
season long. But until you're standing 3 yards away
Yes.
from that sideline,
Right
and a
there.
guy comes flying by and gets hit right there on the side,
Yes.
it's a whole different experience.
Yes,
So-
it was.
and so that's similar. Did you do all of your events at the Texas Relays? Or did you
No,
just
I
do
was
one?
just on the 4x1 at Texas
Did y'all
Relays.
place?
No, unfortunately. It was an honor to have
Sure.
been there, but there are tons of
Oh, I know.
teams that are just as good in their sandbox. And
there's some-
everybody's out there trying to prove that they're the best in the bigger sandbox.
Well, just think about it. If your goal is to run track in college and you're in high school and you're at Texas Relays, there's not a better place to promote
Mm-hmm. No,
yourself.
there really isn't.
Every track coach in the country is there.
Yep.
So it's a very unique sport because there is a little bit of a professional circuit,
Mm-hmm.
but it's kind of like they're moving into Olympics and out of. And
Right.
so, obviously you didn't think that's, going to be your profession for a long period of time. And
Mm-hmm.
so
No, I didn't.
at some point you decided, let's start with where you started
Okay.
college. Where did you go to college?
I started college at the University of Mary Hardin Baylor.
Okay. I saw
I-
them play football on Saturday.
Yes, amazing football program.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Yeah. I started there. I went there for 2 years, and their athletic training program folded. So, yeah, so I took a year off from school to make sure that's really what I wanted to do, but I ended up transferring to Angelo State in
Okay.
San Angelo, Texas, and that's where I graduated from.
Is that what you went to college for training?
Yes, I went specifically for athletic training.
Where'd you get the desire to do that?
Honestly, Don and Wayne.
There you go.
Because before I thought I wanted to be an orthopedic doctor, my mom told me to try the sports medicine class. Maybe I'd be interested. And from there, I just loved it.
So while you're attending college at San Angelo or Mary Hardin Baylor, you're actually active in doing training duties
Yes.
for those teams. And did you get to
Yes.
be on any deep running playoff teams?
My senior year at Angelo State, that was when Coach Beard, who's now at Texas Tech, was actually the head basketball coach at Angelo State. And so they actually made it to the Sweet 16 that year.
Okay.
So that was pretty cool.
So the NCAA
Yes.
tournament. That
Right.
is a big deal.
Yeah, it was a huge deal for Angelo State.
That's a big deal when Texas makes it.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And while I didn't get to go with them to that tournament because there's only so
It's
much.
still a limited budget.
Yes, it's still a limited budget, so they're not really looking to take student training.
Right, they're going to take the salaried people
Right,
first.
right. And but it was really cool experience to, hey, like I totally knew those guys and I got to work with Coach
Did you
Beard.
get like a Sweet 16 ring or anything like that?
No. I think they made it, but I want to say they didn't last but like maybe the first or second round. But it was still like monumental for
Right.
that school.
Well, I went to high school with a guy who pursued and is
Mm-hmm.
currently the Richardson trainer.
Okay.
And when he got a scholarship out of high school to go to Arkansas,
Mm-hmm.
and he has a national championship ring from their basketball team. I think it
Oh,
was
really?
90 or 91. They won the national title. So the Running Hogs, they were pretty good.
That's amazing.
So we're going to let you go
Okay.
because we're starting to bump up on our time. I mean, we could sit here and talk for a long time, I think. But we're going to bring up at least one player, if not two, and they can both come up together, actually. That'll be even better, and so I'll let
All
you
right.
go.
All right. Awesome.
Thank
Nice
you for
meeting
coming
you.
out. Let's get a big round of applause for Coach.
And while they're setting up, we want to thank Bahama Bucks one more time. Big round of applause.
Yeah. Hey, just so you know, Bahama Bucks is open till 10 on the weeknights and 11 on the weekends. So make sure you stop by during second summer and pick yourself up a one of these things right here. Okay, so Noah Holyfield and I'm sorry,
Bryce Allen.
Bryce Allen. I call your name a lot. I'm just used to you wearing a uniform. So, Bryce, you play defense.
Yes, sir.
Occasionally, you get in offense.
Yeah, I play running back on offense.
It's a little bit of running back on offense, but you make a lot of tackles from a linebacker position, right? Is it out?
Corner.
It's a corner position.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And Noah, you're an offensive lineman, right? Oh, your mic's not up. Let's try that again.
Yeah, I played offensive lineman
There
for
you
the last 2 years.
Last few or last two?
Last two, yeah.
Right. So you were you made got district recognition last year on the offensive line, right?
I'm not sure.
I think
so.
you were honorable mention is what they call that. What that means is that another coach in the district thought that you deserved an honor. So something to be proud of. I mean, it is a tough district. We talked with Coach Price about it a little bit earlier. Week in, week out in this district, 13-6A, you're playing some of the better teams in the area. When you watch film like of a game coming up with Westwood, and I'll ask you first, Noah. What do you focus on beyond just your assignments when you're preparing by watching film?
I just look at their defensive line and their linebackers. Those are the two things I really focus on.
We lost our camera signal. I don't know where Mickey went. She might have ran to get a battery. That may be the issue. So there's still audio going, so it's not a big deal. What was I?
I just focus on watching their defensive line and then their linebackers.
Okay.
So,
Now you're mainly looking at pre-snap stuff though when you're looking at film. Is that what you're looking at to see where they line up and
where
what?
they line up and what calls we have to make, because depending of what shade there are, like where they're lined up, it depends like who you have a double team with or what guy you're going to.
Right. So you're looking for your assignment based on alignment pre-snap.
Yes.
Do they ever stem down the line and change right at the last second where they're lined up?
Yeah, they do that sometimes, and then you have to really catch it, or else it's really bad because then they can like get through untouched if you don't.
Yeah,
pick
it
them
doesn't
up.
look very good when that happens to you as a lineman. Now, do y'all communicate when that happens? Or
Yeah,
are you
this
like
year-
screaming a change at that moment?
We don't really scream a change. We just like see it with our eyes. But if like we see them before the play, if we're going on to, we see the backers come up, then we like call the blitz or something like that.
Okay, so you call that a blitz is coming if you think you see it?
Yeah, or like I'm picking up. If he comes, he's mine, or stuff like that.
Okay, so you are like basically communicating like that. It's really important as an offensive line to know what your especially the one right next to you is going to do.
Yeah.
Okay, it looks like we're back on, so thank you, Mickey. Bryce, so you're a defensive player mainly,
Yes, sir.
but you do special teams as well. I know you're on all the coverage teams because you make quite a few tackles on that as well, which means you're making a lot of tackles in the open field.
Yes, sir.
Probably one of the harder places to tackle somebody. It's real easy as a defensive lineman, even if somebody's hanging on you, for the running back to come by and you stick your arm out. Right?
Yeah.
There's not that much of a hole for him to run through. Talk about how hard it is to tackle in space.
It depends on where your eyes are at. So we really focus in practice to get your eyes on their hips, because if your eyes are up, they can really make a move on you. And so,
The shoulders, the head, and the neck.
yeah, it all moves, but their hips will stay in the same spot. So you really want to break down and get your balance and focus on their hips so you can attack the point.
Yeah, we always just said focus on the belly button, because that thing is going wherever you're going. So, but it's not that easy to do at full speed. Sometimes you may be slightly out of control because you're in a hurry to get to cut off his angle or things like that. Talk about that a little bit. How do you break down, because it's not an easy thing to even watch,
Yeah.
let alone do.
Most of the time, since I'm a corner, if they get free, they're usually running down the middle. So I'd have to come across the field, and you can't really break down when they're running vertical and you're running sideways. So I would just reach my hand for the ball and get my other hand on their hip and just take them down that way. But you need a good pursuit angle on that still, so you still want to track the backside hip.
Are you also looking at the ball when you're there, or you just try to secure the tackle?
I look at the ball on the way there to see if I can get it out, but most of the time I just want to secure the tackle to make sure they don't score.
So you've faced a lot of good running backs in our district so far. Which one's the best so far that you faced?
I think Deuce was the best.
Deuce Staley?
Yeah, he had some good moves on him.
And he's at Cedar Ridge, right?
Yes.
They got beat by Vista Ridge on Friday night. So the district it's a tough district, top to
Yeah.
bottom. We may be at the bottom, but I guarantee you there's not a team in our district that walked out of our game and felt like they didn't come out of a fight.
Yes.
And talk about that a little bit. Sometimes you as a team, you might find yourself down. How do you keep your teammates up and active? Because that's one thing I've noticed of you. There's no drop in your hustle defensively, regardless of what the score says.
You just want to focus on the point that the game's not over, and however long they had to score, you have the same amount of time to put the same amount of points up or more. And so you really just want to fight till the end. There's nothing you got to lose. So
Well, and there's something to be said about just being take pride in what you're doing at that moment, even if it's just that play. So are you you're a junior, right?
I'm a senior.
You're a senior, so
Yes, sir.
are you, so you're going to graduate in May. Do you have plans?
I'm gonna try to get a scholarship for track this year, and if not, I'm just gonna apply to whatever colleges take me: UT, A&M, Texas Tech, something like that.
So what do you run in track?
I run the Open 1, Open 2, and then the 4x1 relay and 4x2 relay, and I do some
Sprinter?
jumps. Yes, sir.
So do you don't run the 100, 200
Yeah, I'll run those.
individual? What,
Yes.
what is your 200 time?
I believe last year the fastest I ran was a 24.2.
That's pretty fast.
Faster than us, that's
Yeah, well,
for
it's
sure.
faster than I've ever been. Did you run track, Mark?
I did.
Yeah.
Junior high, that was the last time I
They
ran
make
track.
you
and I
run
said,
track, or they made you
enough
back
of
then.
that.
Yeah. Okay, well, back to you, Noah, a little bit on the offense, because you are a junior, right?
Yeah, I'm a junior.
So you've had the last couple of games, some guys had new faces on the line, right?
Yeah.
Not new faces in terms of, people you don't, you've obviously seen them in the hallways,
New starters.
but new starters because of injuries and a
Yeah.
variety of other reasons. So talk about how you bring those guys along, or how you can help them get better as an experienced, basically elder statesman of the offensive line.
I think it's a big difference between, like, I jumped from freshman football to varsity football, and just like the pace of that and the plays we call and just like the size of the players, it's a big difference. And a lot of the people that got moved up and are starters now, there's some sophomores and they're doing the same thing I did. They may have gotten like a couple of JV games in the middle, but it's still a difference between you going against a JV defensive
It's a
line
big difference,
and
right?
then a varsity offensive line or a defensive line.
Well, and you have not that you care to talk about your siblings, but you've got a younger brother that might get an opportunity to play alongside you next season,
Next
or be
year,
on
yeah.
the same team. You think he's got any chance?
I think he does. He's pretty good at football.
Yeah, he's not too
Yeah.
bad. I've got to call a few of their games. He might need to grow a little bit. He's not quite as big as you.
No, he's not as big, but
He's
Might be-
meaner.
yeah.
Usually the younger one is the meanest. So, okay, we're gonna do a little bit of trivia here to win prizes, and we'll let you go. But before we do that, we are gonna embarrass you a few seconds and tell us who your favorite current teacher is.
I'd say Ms. Dyer, Coach Dyer, my English teacher.
She's your English teacher,
Yes, sir.
and you called her coach. What does she coach?
She's the assistant coach for golf.
Oh,
Yes.
that's a sport to learn if you can learn it. What about you? No.
I'm thinking, like, I like my Spanish teacher, Miss Feliciano. I'm gonna have her for 2 years because I'm doing a IB program and that requires an HL class. So I'm gonna be with her 2 years, and I really like how she teaches, and it's fun in that class. Like we play games and we do this stuff, but like in a fun way.
So you're taking the toughest route,
Yeah.
IB and football, because that doesn't happen a whole lot. A lot of IB students.
There's only two of us this year. It's Joseph Shoto and me, like the two juniors that are doing it.
So are you managing the workload well enough?
I think we are. We just have like a couple like hours after practice of homework, but we get through it, and we like every week you just have to plan it out and make sure you do the right amount of stuff the night before so you can get through the next day.
That's the perfect answer. It's really it's attitude. How bad do you want it? And as with anything in life, you're going to get out of it what you put in it. The more you put into it, the more you will gain from it. And this is IB, football, relationships, anything. So let's get some trivia and quit being serious. So y'all want to do, I don't know if you are fans of the Netflix series. I'm just going to read them
Oh,
off.
you read them, okay.
Yeah. Of the Netflix series Stranger Things.
I haven't seen it.
No?
I don't know
Okay,
about
so
that.
we'll do just traditional Halloween trivia then. You've trick-or-treated, right?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
I want to make sure some people may not have. So. All right. Question 1. Where, you slap the table if you know the answer. And it's multiple guesses, so I'm going to give you some choices. but you can slap it as soon as you know the answer. Where does Halloween come from? Canada, England, Ireland, or Scotland?
Scotland.
Wrong.
Canada.
Wrong. It's Ireland. If you look it up, they talk about how jack-o'-lanterns came about because they used to use another type of gourd to make lanterns in Ireland. Anyway, those gourds didn't exist in the Americas, so they used pumpkins. Which celebrity was born on Halloween? Christopher Lee? Celebrity? Who wrote these questions? Rob Schneider's a celebrity? Rob Schneider, Linda Blair, or Jamie Lee Curtis? Those are all really old actors. Y'all probably don't know who any of those people are. Go ahead.
Lindy Blair.
Linda Blair is incorrect, but what was she in?
Exorcist.
Exorcist. She was the possessed girl.
I'll go with C.
That's the same answer.
Oh.
So we're going to say no, because that one, I think there's no way you get it. It's Rob Schneider. You probably don't even know who that is. He used to be on Saturday Night Live. He was terrible. The first jack-o'-lanterns were made of A, pumpkins, B, watermelon, C, cantaloupes, D, turnips.
Pumpkins.
It is pumpkins. We got one for Noah.
Yeah.
1-0. Halloween is the second highest grossing commercial holiday after A, Thanksgiving, B, Christmas, C, Easter.
Christmas.
It is Christmas.
Same.
So Bryce gets 1-1. Which phobia people... This question is worded poorly. Which phobia that people have is an intense fear of Halloween? Is that phasmophobia, nyclophobia, samhainophobia, or wiccophobia?
Wigophobia.
No, that's a fear of witches, though.
Oh.
Samhainophobia is correct. Good luck. That's nice. Good guess. He was so confident. Owls were thought to be blank in medieval Europe. They were thought to be A, a witch, B, a ghost, C, a death announcement, or D, a vampire.
A vampire.
Guessing vampire, that's incorrect.
Oh.
A death announcement.
Huh?
A death announcement.
Move your mic a little bit closer. A death announcement is incorrect. It's actually a witch. On average, each pumpkin contains how many seeds? If you ever carved one, you'll probably overguess. It's 100, 200, or actually 300. 100, 300, 500, or 1,000.
500.
500 is correct, and we are knotted up at 2.
Okay.
Due to its low budget, the Halloween 1978 movie used which mask for Michael Myers? Was it Marlon Brando as the Godfather, Obi-Wan Kenobi in Star Wars, Luke Skywalker in Star Wars, or Captain Kirk in Star Trek? The shape of the mask.
Obi-Wan in Star Wars.
Obi-Wan is incorrect.
Star Trek.
It is Star Trek. Captain Kirk. Bryce gets a 3-2 lead. I don't really get that question, so it's a good guess.
Keep guessing.
It says the shape, so I'm presuming the shape of the mask. I thought it was a hockey mask, but that's Friday the 13th, not Halloween. So, which haunted house is located 80 feet below ground? The 13th Gate in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, the Haunted Cave in Louis. The word Halloween, Bryce is leading in case you're wondering. The word Halloween comes from A, All Hallows Eve, B, a Scottish song, C, All Saints Day, or D, a Celtic song. Noah's looking at. Go ahead.
All Hallows Eve.
It is All Hallows Eve, and so Bryce is going to pull away with that one. We'll ask the last one, but it doesn't matter because Bryce wins. Which colors are associated with Halloween? I'm not going to give you the choice.
Black and orange.
Black and orange is correct. And so we're going to give you a prize, and we're going to appreciate and thank you for coming out and encourage you guys to keep working. What do you want? Do you want a shirt, a sticker for your car that you'll?
Ooh, that license plate.
You want a license plate?
Can I get one?
Yeah, if you want one.
Yes.
What do
I'll
you
take
want?
a shirt,
A shirt? What size you wear? Bro?
medium.
Medium. Doo-doo. This is what you call exciting radio right here. Look, I'll tell you what, Bryce, look for you a shirt that's going to fit. I'm going to wrap this up real quick. I want to thank everybody for coming out. Thank you, Bahama Bucks. Let's give a big round of applause again. Coach Hobb, Coach Henderson, and the players, Coach Price, thank you again. And thanks for coming out. Well, Friday night, we're at Kelly Reeves. Make sure you go out. Thursday night, the freshmen are at Running Brushy. So make sure you come out. There's one game or two? Okay, 2 JV games at LHS, and then one freshman at Running Brushy. Okay, that's the schedule on Thursday. Friday, of course, we'll be at Kelly Reeves. Make sure you come out. Come by Bahama Bucks whenever you can. They're open till 10 on weeknights and 11 on the weekends. Thank you, everybody.